Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. Ready, set, data. I know we're
Hello,
happy to be
hello.
here.
How
So,
goes on this happy
oh,
Thursday?
it's happy. I haven't asked. You know what? I haven't asked Thursday how it feels. That's on me.
That's on you.
Yeah, but I'm glad Thursday's happy. I'm doing well. How are you, Lee?
A bit tired, but I'm here, ready to move forward. We're gonna have a pretty cool topic as always. So, but I'm doing okay. The day's been good.
Yeah, topic automation. So quick before I get derailed, I'll let you get derailed by O'Grady's
Before
background
I
in a
get
second.
derailed, let's derail on purpose.
Yeah, yes. We have ready, set, data, and we're back again. Today we're talking about automation. Lee already alluded to that. We have our software engineer, O'Grady. O'Grady.
Hello.
Me, data engineer, Anthony, and database extraordinaire, aka database administrator, Lee. Oh, I got one over there. Gotta remember I'm backwards.
And Liam
Um,
in chat already. I'm assuming, are we going by Liam? Is that what we wanted? Did we settle on that?
I don't think he ever confirmed, or I should say, they ever confirmed anything. But we're glad they're here.
Yes. Yes.
Uh, what's up?
Yeah, we had
Um,
meet the teacher tonight. So I literally had work, meet the teacher, deploy here. There's a whole thing. It's been a very eventful day. Old Jester's going into fifth grade, so
Wow, getting big.
yeah.
Very nice.
Or
Glad I'm
getting
done
old.
with that.
I say, Anthony, you probably have someone starting this week, right?
All of my
Or do
kids
you
starting
guys?
something.
Yeah.
So yeah, this will be Jordan's final year of college, I believe, and then I have Alec, who's going into Umzol, and then
Nice.
all the way down through high school. That's me. So everyone's starting something.
Cool.
That's how it is. So Lee's gonna talk to us a bit tonight about automation. I did my due
Great topic.
diligence and did zero homework just to make sure I was
Nice
prepared,
and raw.
as always. Yep. But I am looking forward to it. This is a cool topic, and automation is something that for any developer or anybody in IT, I think in general, we know the benefits of it, but I think a lot of people outside of IT may not realize how much automation can help their life.
Or
Yeah.
already does, because
Or
I bet
already does,
O'Grady. I don't know how much automation you realize you have, but I'm willing to bet you have a lot of automation in your work life right now.
Oh yeah, and personal life. Yeah,
Like those automated lights in the background.
this is all automated. After a
Love the new
certain
decks.
time, everything turns off, so they don't waste power. It's getting there. The hopefully the cats might make an appearance. That'll be we'll see.
That's why everyone's really here.
Yes.
Just to see the cat.
Yeah.
Yes. But
Of course.
yeah. So we're gonna
So
jump
without
into it.
further- Let's do it.
What
Yeah.
So you were saying you have a six point topics, is that correct?
I had
Or
six, and I actually just thought of a seventh one. But yeah, there's plenty of stuff. So we'll circle back. I mean, automation's a huge topic.
And
Yeah.
chat, how you doing too? Like, we want to hear from you guys. Tell us about your week as well, and you can always tell us in here, or make sure you go join the Discord and just chat. We're usually
for
hanging
sure.
out in there, so
Ask questions, challenge
Definitely.
us, tell us we're wrong and why, all that kind of good stuff.
you have to
so
have the why. If you don't have the why,
That's preferable. Don't just say you're wrong. I mean, that's at least have a
it
reason.
might be true, but I need something to prove it. We require proofs.
Right. So I'm going to drop into the chat a link that kind of inspired the topic. So there's a link to a blog post there. And in that you'll find some of the bullet point list of some of the stuff we're going to talk about. But automation is really super important, and we're going to kind of talk about why. I think the first thing is automating things, whether you're using PowerShell or Bash or Python or all of those things together, or something else, it's going to save you. It's going to save you time. Like most everything has a GUI. We love GUIs because of Bill Gates, who saved us from the command line. Well, he saved some of us, and he didn't save Anthony.
I hard command line. It's okay.
I still write command line
But-
programs.
I mean, in all seriousness, Bill Gates and Windows 98 or 3.1, and then 95. I mean, it gave us a graphical user interface. It's really cool. We can point and click a mouse, which was an amazing, really cool thing in the 80s. And you get to interact and see things on the screen that let you do things to the computer. And that's cool as long as, we're talking about your home PC or a server or two at work. But even in those scenarios, like automation, if you learn how to automate something that you're doing, it's going to take way less time to kick off an automation routine than to click through a user interface to get something done.
Yep.
For sure. So, for example, from my world, you can click through a GUI for setting up a failover
Automation, by the way.
And
I just made it so if you do a Bing topic, you can now see the blog that is associated to what we are talking about tonight.
oh,
if you want
nice.
to reference it. I
Cool.
automated it as you would.
Automated.
There's automation right there.
See, that was quick.
That was quick, yeah. You can click through a user interface and set up a failover cluster for Windows, for example. If you're at work and you're trying to get a high availability solution. But if you have to do that repeatedly because you're in a big environment and you have to build them a lot, then if you have a routine that does it for you, you click off, you power off the routine, you kick it off. That's the word I'm looking for. You don't power off the routine. You kick off the routine and it builds it for you, and you can now go off and do something else. So
Yeah, definitely. So it's not just saving time as in get to the finish line as quickly as possible, although it can be that. I'm gonna have so much trouble not jumping to the second bullet point. Mental block that. But also, like you just said, you can go do another thing. The other thing could be going to the bathroom, could be going to lunch, could be working on something else that's important, right? If
Mhm.
it's automated, then you can multi-thread that, right? You can say, I trust my automation to handle this. It definitely saves you time. Another way it saves you time, in my opinion, is with automation, you can have stuff happen before you even show up, right? You can have things kick off early in the morning, and then your coffee's ready, or whatever is more a better analogy to you. Your data's ready, stuff's set up, right? That saves you time and aspect. Things are just ready for you, so you don't have to get them ready.
Yep. It reminds me of what you talked about last week, Anthony, where your reports, you eventually built an automation system essentially where reports magically appeared before people ever even really got to the office. Whereas before, those people were waiting around for you and your team to do your thing so that the reports would show up.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was just told, and the before was totally acceptable, right? And
Yeah.
then there's this fallacy where they think, the joke is, why do a thing that takes 10 minutes when you can spend 6 hours automating it? And I actually totally agree with that. Like, I know it's a joke, but like, if I spend 6 hours automating it, I don't have to do the thing, it'll just happen. And the reports we're talking about were really important. It took a lot more than 6 hours to automate them, but the payoff I felt was really good. A lot more documents, a lot of job satisfaction.
Yeah.
The job got made easier, I should say. I didn't like, I love my job now, but like,
Right.
Yeah, you got to
so
look
I'm
at
saying-
the ROI on that. Like 6 hours seems like a lot, but if you're spending even 20 minutes doing it, over the course of a year, maybe you do this once a week. That's adding up pretty quick to pay for
100%.
itself.
Yeah,
Not to mention, during that time, you can now do something else with your time as opposed to having to focus on that.
who has to deal with context switching? And how much of a pain
That's-
is that?
Yeah.
If you have an automated process to keep you, yeah, it takes 10 minutes to do. It'll be real quick. But if you have an automated process to handle that for you, you don't have a context switch now.
Right.
That's
true.
That's something that's good for me too. And all this is hidden in saves you time. 10 minutes may not seem like a lot, but when you have things you need to get done, you don't want to stop doing X to work on the 10-minute process.
10 minutes once a week is, that's 520 minutes. That's almost 9 hours.
And while Anthony's talking about context switching, make sure chat knows what that is. It's you probably have done it and don't realize that you don't realize it's called context switching. But when you're in the middle of doing something and you're focused on it, and there's times when you just are really deep into development or whatever you're doing, and someone comes up and says, "Hey, I need this," and you're like, you have to say, "Okay, I pull back, get into thinking mode of listening what you need, and then transition to whatever they want you to do." That's the context switching itself. So instead of continuing your momentum and your flow, it stops, and you have to change gears, and it's a huge time sink when it happens often.
Yeah, when you're in the flow like that, it's even more difficult, I feel like, to make the context switch. I still have to remind people around me that if I'm in the middle of something and you're in the other room and you want to talk to me, you can't just start talking to me, because first of all, I have no idea you're even talking to me.
Yeah.
Secondly, you're going to have to repeat everything you said, because I kind of heard you talking, but because I was doing something else and I really hadn't context switched yet, I wasn't listening. I wasn't paying attention to the words. So, if you want me to engage in a conversation, you need to say my name first.
Yeah.
Everyone responds to their name. If I say O'Grady or Anthony or Dunce or whatever, people perk up. You respond to that. You respond to your own name. So that gets your attention, even if you're deep in thought with something else. Especially if it's like a significant other. Hopefully that also gets your attention a little quicker than, if it's not a significant other. Anyway, context switching is a bear, for sure, and it saves, and automating can help with not having to make those context switches. I talked about automation saves you time as in the person doing the automating, but O'Grady brought up a great point that, or one of the two of you made up a great point about ROI and how it actually saves other people time.
Oh yeah.
So instead of waiting around for a process to finish, they they can be more productive, because when they get to the office, they already have their thing.
Yeah.
So that's a great deal.
Yeah, and that's that brings up like literally all today. I wasn't even thinking about it for the fact that we're doing a show on automation, but today I was working on, I don't know if you guys have dealt with Logs.io at all. It's an alerting site that takes your logs and it says,
I'm about to.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. But it's very simple to use, but it's one of those, I have to take my logs that are just a mess and then say, well, based on all these, what can I extract and get alerts from that would be beneficial? And it's for the fact of automation. So I can say, hey, if this comes up 10 times in an hour, well, then I just saved this much time of trying to wait for it to present itself in a more negative way. Then, oh, the error is starting to happen. Let's hit it now. Well, we just saved hours of development time. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So Dunce is hitting on our next point that Anthony restrained himself from talking about earlier, which is that automation provides consistency. So that things are happening the same way every time.
Yes. So much so.
So fantastic. So if you, so let's say the three of us are on a team. We work on similar teams, and you gave us a task to do. Because of our differing backgrounds and our differing experiences and training and all of those things, we'd probably do the same thing 3 different ways, and
Yeah.
they all might result in the same or end in the same result. And they'll take varying degrees of time and effort and blah blah blah, computer resources, let's say. But how is it going to be when we all leave that company and someone else has to deal with the 3 different processes to do the thing? It's gonna
Right.
be really confusing. And
Or
yeah,
you go on vacation, I got to cover you. Now I'm doing it
Yeah.
differently, and no one understands why
right.
it's not working right.
that too. So if you automate, and automation helps you like choose and focus on a method. We're going to do this one way, and we're going to build it the best that we can. We're going to make it as efficient as we can, etc. But we're all going to do it this one way.
Yep.
That is a huge deal, especially as your environment gets bigger, which we'll talk about maybe a little later. So yeah, what do you guys think about that?
No, that's huge. That's standardizations of methods or processes is kind of a big thing in our industry,
Right.
So much so that I think we discussed having one of our shows on standards we agree with and standards we don't agree with. And if you can be that standard at your company, I'm not saying it needs to be the industrial or the industry standard that you're going off of, but if you can set a standard that other people also doing automation can can use as kind of a template, then you're going to save even more time in the future when someone has to go and work on that code.
Yeah, so somebody asked a question there. It went right by me. Dunce. No, it wasn't Dunce. Somebody asked, what's our industry? Spirit. There we go.
Spirit guide. Yeah.
So, I mean, our industry is information technology. I'm in a SaaS company right now, software as a service. So the company that I'm at now provides software. Like, we use this all the time, and I never really thought about this until I started learning about it. But like Microsoft 365, that's software as a service. You're getting a suite of Office software that you access at will to do stuff with. And that's kind of what my company does right now. I've been in physical security. So by that, I mean, like, think ADT or Brinks Alarm Company, that kind of thing. I've done medical, so lots of different ones, and specifically, I'm in the database niche of that IT world.
Yeah, so when I say industry, I usually mean the IT industry. Now, we've discussed in the past that our industries also fall within larger industries or within different industries. So, I've been in a lot of different main industries. So you can be like a medical field, but as IT. So it's like, I always say that the industry is the IT part. Yes, like at a club. Back in Lee's clubbing days.
No.
Which was last Thursday.
Not that. Yeah, totally. Not that kind of security. So, like, I'm sure that some of you have been to, I'll pick a restaurant. We'll say restaurant. And you go into the front door. As you're approaching the front door, it says something like secured by ADT or secured by Brinks Alarm Company. Or
now Ring doorbells.
Ring, yes. Yeah. There's another one. Anyway, that kind of security where they're providing like physical access security. They're, you know, the restaurant when they close at night, they usually they'll go to a keypad. The last person in there will go to a keypad. They'll put in a code to arm the alarm system, and they walk through the door, lock it, and they're doing that because the equipment there that's installed is meant to detect if someone comes through a window or opens a door or that kind of thing, drops through the ceiling into the restaurant or the bank or the jewelry store or whatever. It's designed to detect that activity. That's the kind of security I'm talking about.
Mission Impossible.
So yeah, Spirit brought up. He said he'd call IT more of a function, I guess more than of a function than an industry. So my differentiation there is that as a software engineer, I can go to any company and work there. Like there's very little places that I couldn't just say, you need a software engineer. Like everybody needs them. Now, who can pay me what I'm worth and give me what I've been looking for is a whole different story. But to me, that falls into an industry type standard, because I can say I'm looking for software engineering job, and they'll say, yeah, here's your 50,000 options. Okay, cool. And that's just maybe the way I think about it.
I get it. Makes sense. But there are some people some hiring managers that might like to know what quote unquote industry you work in, because there's some domain knowledge there, right? You know, I honestly believe that banks think about, and now I'm data centric. Banks would think, financial institutions would think about numbers a lot differently than a hospital. Both of those people care
Oh, sure.
very deeply about security and care very, very deeply about like
yeah.
audits and all that. Whereas other companies may be a little bit more fast and loose with that information. So
No,
the
that's 100%
industry,
true.
yeah. So Spirit, the industry that I'm in, it's manufacturing. It's not actually automotive. It's tangentially connected to automotive. So yeah, a lot of the companies, a lot of manufacturing operations and a lot of sales type operations. So
Yep.
I got the best of both those two worlds there. Also the worst of those two worlds.
I'm in the
So good stuff.
mortgage industry, I guess you'd call it.
Worked in that one too for about a year and a half. Yeah.
Didn't work out. Better place to go.
Place
How it
was bought
goes.
by a bigger company,
Oh,
and I realized I needed to move on.
gotcha.
Yeah,
I could remember there was a good story there, so I was prompting in case there was.
yeah.
Mm.
Oh, there's
Yeah.
a story for another time.
Understood.
So yeah, we're talking about, you know, automation providing some consistency, and it made me think about infrastructure as code, which is really important when you're in the cloud. So
I
if you
get
go
excited.
to Azure, AWS, Google Cloud Platform, and other smaller players, if you need to build 15 servers, you don't want to do that one at a time with a GUI. So you can do something called infrastructure as code, which can be done, I'm sure, in a myriad of ways, way more than I'm even aware of. But one way, at least in Azure, is you can use JSON files. You create JSON files that define things like the region that you want something to be deployed in, what you're deploying. You know, is it a virtual machine? Is it some kind of function or other kind of service? And what resources are you giving it? Is CPU involved, RAM, storage, how much of those things? And all that goes into a JSON file. And then your
Thank you for
cloud
saying
platform.
JSON.
What's that?
Thank
Oh,
you for
yes.
saying JSON.
and then the cloud platform reads the JSON file and builds the thing that you've described. And so you can build 50, or 15,000 of those things using a file, and they all look the same. So yes, and you can also rake in the cash for yourself as a person who's capable of doing those things.
I was actually thinking, when you said 50,000, I'm like, that's a big bill to pay. The money's just
Oh,
flying.
that's
But yeah,
too.
you're right.
That's true too. Yeah.
And that also comes down to like the monthly processes. I know, Anthony, that there's a lot at your company still. I don't deal with as much of that type of automation anymore, but monthly processes that run whatever type of reports or populating certain data based on monthly reports. If you know that's done the same every month, it's a little more trustworthy of data than, well, this month it's plus or minus 5%. You're like, it's a lot when it comes to millions of dollars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. So I
Yeah,
can
definitely.
see things like, so, Spirit mentioned your finance function in an entertainment industry. Well, there's, I'm sure, tons of stuff that if you thought about it, that you could automate in the finance industry, like the reporting that we talked about earlier on, or that O'Grady just mentioned. There's lots of ways to automate number crunching.
Yeah.
So,
Or financing in general. One of the biggest things that's helped me adult, I guess you can call it, is getting all of my bills automated. Not having to
yes.
not having to actually look at a bill and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna go pay this." No, it's direct deposit, it's directly taken out. Oh my god!
Yeah.
Once you do that, it
So,
makes your life so much easier.
yes. I'm going to tell y'all something that might freak you out, but because I don't know if I ever told my mom this, because she definitely would have freaked, I think. I haven't balanced my checkbook in like 3 decades.
I've only written like 4 checks, so
Yeah.
Because it's all automated. I know exactly what's going out and when, and the bank emails me for my transactions, blah, blah, blah. So much time saved. That's a great example. That's a great everyday life example that people can relate to.
and you don't realize the time saving until you do it and you get a message saying, "Hey, your bill was paid," and you're like, "I didn't even think about that." That's awesome. Like, love it.
Yeah, it is awesome. So automation, the next thing I want to talk about is automation results in reduced and easier troubleshooting. So to tie into the example we're just talking about that kind of came up on the fly,
Mhm.
if I automate my bill payments and I get a notice that says, "Hey, Lee, we like you, buddy, but you're late on this payment." Cough up the whatever it is. First of all, that's going to catch me by surprise because I automate my bill. So I'm like, okay, what happened?
Yeah.
But it also clues me in that maybe I didn't automate this bill.
Or
Maybe
maybe a credit card expired, or
Yeah, it could be
something
that.
something that needs to be, like you're saying, troubleshooting. That's cuts it down to only like 4 or 5 things that it could possibly be.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's consistent, because it is something that's repeatable, and you have a certain process that you use to do the thing, in this case, pay your bills, you know exactly where to look, where to start looking. You log into your bank, you look at the place where you auto pay your bills, and you say, oh, this bill isn't in here, or the bill is there. So then you look at the auto pay and say, am I not paying enough? Did the bill change and amount change? So now I need to pay more. What happened? But it gives you a starting place.
And
And you
that
don't,
does bring
yeah,
up a secondary point.
yeah,
Once you start automating your bills, do them from your bank. You can do them from, like, let's say you're doing electric bill. We have Ameren is St. Louis Electric, but you can do it through Ameren and give them your credit card. But then once that credit card goes up, or their whatever account you give them goes away, you'll get these kind of alerts. But if you do them through your bank and say, "Hey, I'm authorizing this place to do
yeah.
this much," you don't even have to worry about that much. So it'd be even more of a surprise when it pops up and well, something's up with my bank account. I don't know.
Right.
But
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, when you have the consistency of the process, then troubleshooting is just easier. You have these fewer weird situations that you forgot about, and that you had to do in a rush because someone's breathing down your neck to get it done.
Yeah.
So yeah, easier troubleshooting.
I'd say, or the case I brought up earlier with dealing with Logs.io, that's literally built for troubleshooting. I'm taking logs and making alerts out of them so that I can be told when something goes wrong, as opposed to being told by an end user. I'm being told by the system, which is much preferred.
Yep. So Spirit has an interesting comment or observation. He says, we are way too reliant on Excel, to be honest. I'm just going to start the conversation by saying a blanket fact that no one here is going to argue with. Excel is not a database.
If anything, it's a pain in my freaking side whenever I'm dealing with databases.
Yeah.
Someone comes up to you and like, so I have this, what do they say? I have this server on my computer. And you're like, what are you talking about? They're like, it's in the Excel. And you're like, oh, okay. And then you look at it and you're like, no, that's not what we want to do at all. It's
counterpoint, devil's advocate. I love it. Counterpoint. Also, Excel's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
True.
No, and it does have its uses if you're doing it as a table read.
If you're not using it as a database, if you're not using it as a database, then you're fine.
If you're using it to pull data, sure, great. Aggregate data, all right, whatever. If you want to use Excel, go for it.
Excel excels at being Excel. That's for sure.
Yes, but once you try to step beyond that, because it has the capability, doesn't mean that it should be.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, you can automate stuff with Excel. There's VB script. Is that a thing with Excel? I never learned VB script.
VB6 now or something. I don't know. Yeah. There's macros. There's
I learned.
Is it called Power Query? They can do a lot in Excel now. Microsoft didn't stop building it up.
Absolutely. So
I feel like once I started like SQL Manager and like actual things that I can use to aggregate data, I kind of stopped using Excel for most stuff, honestly.
Sure.
Yeah. Not everyone has a choice though.
We're going to move on to reason number 4. And this is something I thought about because it feels like it answers an objection that I kind of can see on the faces of people that I've talked to about this, or that I kind of hear in the background about the idea of why should I use PowerShell specifically, or why should I automate? And this is going to be specific to my industry for a few minutes and specific to databases. And I'm sure the two of you will have, well, I hope you'll have other examples. But when I talk about automating my interactions with SQL Server using PowerShell, and I'm talking to developers maybe even other longtime DBAs who are really skilled with Transact SQL, which is Microsoft's version of SQL language, and they can lasso the moon with T-SQL. And for those folks, I say, fantastic. I'm glad you can do that. But they seem concerned, like, am I going to have to leave that behind? Like, what happens to all the fantastic, wonderful, beautiful, glorious T-SQL I've written? Do I have to start over? And the answer to that is no, you don't. The SQL Server module in PowerShell and the DBA Tools module in PowerShell both have commands that let you call T-SQL.
Mm-hmm.
So you can still hug and love your T-SQL scripts. You don't have to put them away, weeping in a corner, or put them to sleep and never see them again. They're still usable. You still get value from your massive inventory of stuff you've written over the years. You're just executing it differently. So instead of manually opening it up in SQL Server Management Studio, or for the cool people, Azure Data Studio, and
for the really cool people, just
Visual Basics and Excel.
Thought I had something, but I don't. You can use Visual Studio.
You could, but
Visual
why?
Studio Code.
Yes, you could.
Good.
Actually, Visual Studio Code is actually really good for PowerShell. But anyway, moving on.
It is. Yes.
Oh yeah,
I
and
wanna
that's
slow down.
Liam. I like that Liam just said I kind of want to learn how to PowerShell. That's I like when I hear someone have any interest in want to get
Well,
how to PowerShell.
Liam, earlier in the chat, there was a cool little link to a blog post that's part 1 of Introduction to PowerShell for the DBA. And while it says it's for the DBA, the whole series is relevant for anyone who wants to learn PowerShell and how to get started. So, see my blog.
And the cool thing
Sounds
about
so
PowerShell is even when you're just starting out, you can use it as like a command line. So you can still do basic stuff that you probably already know, and just to get comfortable using the actual interface.
Yep.
So are you saying VS Codium should be a topic? Or are you
I
trying
don't
to trigger
use VS
something?
Codium.
We could, yeah. 1 second here.
VS Codium.
So it's kind of
Seems like a at home one I may use. At work they may not let us.
Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah,
companies
sure.
have restrictions, or not restrictions, I guess, but like powerful suggestions on what you should be using as far as IDEs. So
Right. Yeah. So we are coming up on time. I want to kind of keep moving. Again, there's tons of, we could talk on any of these for probably a whole hour at least, but so we talked about how you can still love your T-SQL scripts. The next reason that you should be automating is that it's easier to get started than you think. And somebody just kind of, I think maybe O'Grady, it was you. With PowerShell specifically, it's really, even with the command line, it's easy to find things. It's easy to find commands to do the things that you want. So there's a help system built into PowerShell, for example, and there's help systems in most command line type things. I'm assuming Python has one. Is that true, guys?
I haven't written much in Python.
Sorry, I was chatting with the chat. What was the last thing?
That's okay. Python, does it have a help system?
Built in like debate tools. I don't know if it does.
Okay.
I would think they'd have some kind of / question marks going on.
Okay.
But I
Well,
don't
so
know.
PowerShell has a help system. You can say, you can type into it get-help and then like asterisk trace asterisk. I don't know. And it will give you information. It'll give you help articles about commands that have the word trace in them. You can also type in get-command and do the same thing. So get-command, and I think you actually have to single quote. So get-command, single quote, star or asterisk, trace, star, single quote. And that will give you all the commands that you currently have available to you in the modules you have installed that have the word trace in them.
Mhm.
So you can look up things like that quite easily. And if you then, once you find your command, let's say it's get-dba restore, then you can do help get-dba restore and do -full, and it gives you the full explanation. So it gives you all of the various syntax possibilities. Then it'll give you a bunch of examples, or all the examples that are there. And looking through that, I found it's really pretty easy to get started with PowerShell. So even though it might feel ominous to start something new, I think you can get started relatively easily.
I wonder if this will work. Hey, look, you can see my PowerShell. So like, just help me. It tells you help everything that has an ME in it. We'll give you all the little. Yeah, it's really cool.
So Python has a help command also. Now that makes me wonder how many things have that built in. And then after you asked me about Python, I looked it up. Learning live with you all. I remember on Linux, like there's like you can get the man pages, manual man pages
Yeah.
for whatever command you're looking at. So while they're in the command line, like, oh, I want to use this. Oh, then you can just type a command and get the man pages. So I wonder if a lot of these languages have this, and then we are just so used, so accustomed to going to Google that we don't find out about them.
Probably.
Or
Yeah.
It's
being-
probably like 3 keystrokes
down.
away, and yet I do a Google search for it.
except you go and open up a browser and then go, yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a caveman.
So we talked a little bit about this earlier. Automation also allows you to scale. Obviously, if you're doing something on 1 or 2 computers, using the user interface, probably not that big a deal. If you need to do it on 15 or 1,500 computers, the user interface is going to be a problem. So
Yeah.
automation, whether that's Bash, PowerShell, Python, whatever it is that you're doing, at that point, it's going to let you scale. Which leads into the next thing. Automation skills are most likely a requirement for career advancement in order to reach certain levels. So if you aspire, and it's okay if you don't, if you don't want to aspire to high levels in your industry, you like where you're at, or you want to get to a certain level and then kind of stop, perfectly fine. But if you want to get to like a high mid person or senior level person in your industry, particularly in IT, automation is basically a requirement. You're going to have to learn how to make things go without the user interface. And it's because by the time you reach a senior level, you're usually sitting in a large enterprise that has, more than 10, 15, or even 100 servers. We're talking about, you might have 150, 200 just SQL servers,
Mhm.
plus all your web servers, plus all the file servers, plus all whatever. And you can't manage all of that with user interface. So
Liam asked, I messed with Ubuntu before, Ubuntu before.
Ubuntu.
Yeah, is it kind of like using PowerShell? And so I would say if you're talking about the command line, because I use desktop Ubuntu.
Mhm.
But if you're on the command line, I'd argue yes, it's a lot like that because PowerShell is like the more modern version of Windows command line.
Yeah.
But it also can be it has more niceties built into it, allow you to build programs instead of I don't want to say clunky bash shell scripts because I'm not saying they're bad, but for those of us who like to put things into classes and make functions and all that, it has all that kind of already built in. And if Bash has that, I'm just ignorant and unaware.
Mhm.
Maybe it does, but PowerShell is to Windows and the normal Bash commands that you'd have, or whatever it's called, on Linux. They have their own command line.
Yeah.
But PowerShell can run on Linux. I don't
Yes.
think it's full featured, but it can.
absolutely.
Good to know too, for if anybody wants to try it out but doesn't, isn't on the Windows side of things.
Yeah. So I know that O'Grady, you mentioned you have a hard stop, and we're 11 minutes away from that. So we probably ought to
I got till
let you
about
raid or.
I got till
Extended,
8:15. I put a
Oh,
note
okay.
in it.
Okay, that's cool.
Was able to get an extension.
Yay, we have an extension. Like when you're late turning in your term paper, and your
Yes.
professor is
Just
nice
like
and
that.
gives you an extension.
When you're doing a deployment and you're like, it's gonna go till Thursday. Is that okay? And they're like, yes.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. So in that case, I will transition to a related topic. So we've talked a lot about why we need to automate, and kind of like Liam was asking or saying, I'd really like to get into PowerShell.
Yeah.
How do you do that? Like, how do you learn? How do you start learning to automate things? And I have some answers, of course, but what do you guys? How have you progressed with automation? How'd you do it?
So, well, I'll let you think.
Yeah,
Because I
no,
can
you're-
I can dive right in. Sorry, I had that awkward phase where I'm like, I don't want to cut you off, but I can tell you're thinking. So,
No, you're fine.
um,
You're fine.
so for me, I mentally separate learning how to use a language and develop from the actual automation. But once I feel comfortable using language, whether it's T-SQL, whether it's PowerShell, whether it's anything else, Python. Once I kind of know how to get around it, I start small and I automate things that I'm comfortable automating, and I just build up, right? So at first it may be small tasks, but then it's greater tasks. Then you attach together. Um, that's kind of the methodology I go. I was in a conversation earlier and I was saying a lot of times for me it's like once I'm using the tool, whether it's PowerShell, Python, or anything else, then I just think about what it is I want to get done, and then I start building. I want to hit that little roadblock where I'm like, how do you format date in JavaScript? Well, clickety, 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 and then I have an answer, right? So, Pluralsight. Um, so that's me. Like I tend to, whether it's a video or whether it's a book or not, I get introduced to the said language, to said tool, and then I literally I just start building once I feel comfortable moving past that.
Right.
That's all
Yeah, and
I'm gonna ready.
So I dropped the link for Pluralsight. The anytime it's a new technology to me. So it's not like if it's I still do it in C#, so I can't even say that. But for the most part, if it's a language I'm more comfortable in, I can do more direct searches online to get more targeted results.
Mhm.
But if it's something that I know like I want to get into, but I don't know really where to start, I always go to Pluralsight. I love Pluralsight. I don't know what your guys' view on it. I've met a lot of cool people on there, instructors, and actually I ended up
Yeah.
meeting some of the instructors at DevUp that I watch on Pluralsight, like Steve Smith,
Cool, right?
and
Nice.
really cool. Yeah, he like
I'm
gave
a
me a
fan of
sticker with his
Pluralsight as
face
well.
on it. I'm like, hey, this is cool.
No, I'm a fan of Pluralsight as well. Well,
Yeah, if you
that's great,
guys-
especially for the new stuff. Is that like right after Microsoft's like, we have a thing, you usually see it on Pluralsight.
I'm sure
So-
every current developer knows of Deborah Karada on there. Huge one for .NET, C#,
Mm-hmm.
JavaScript. I think she does pretty much every language that I learned. But yeah, if you guys don't know about Pluralsight, I'm pretty sure there's it's a free version of it, and then the paid version even then still isn't terrible. But it's definitely worth it if you're looking to advance your career and move into new technology.
Yeah. So I
Even
have
if
a
you
little-
only do it for like 2 months, like let's say you do a 2-month subscription just to get 10 classes in, and it's worth it.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a different take on Pluralsight. I like it, but you have to commit to using it. You're paying, I don't know, it's like $40 a month,
Mhm.
and you get, complete access to whatever's in their library.
Or your
Which-
company is paying it if you can
Well, yeah.
negotiate that. Just
Yeah. But
Which you should.
I guess it's like anything. If you don't use it, then it's a waste of money, which is kind of where I found myself in. I had a Pluralsight for years, and I used it early on, and I used it less and less later on.
Yeah.
Until I just kind of discovered I'm just wasting this money. I should cancel it because I don't ever access the information in there. And so when I need to learn something now, it's a YouTube video, it's a book, or I'll buy a Udemy course after I've tried to vet it to see, how long has it been around? How many people have bought it? How many stars does it have? Blah, blah, blah. And
I've also done Udemy.
Yeah, and you can spend $30 on a single course that you're going to use because maybe you're trying to study for a certification or something like that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I probably have a bias towards Pluralsight because everywhere I've worked has given me a license. So I'm a lot more likely to be like, I'm gonna jump on Pluralsight and look up the new courses.
Right.
But that's YouTube is another great example of a lot of people out there that just want to teach classes and kind of like what we do, but a little more targeted.
Yeah.
So
A great resource. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, so I like Pluralsight also. Although I felt like lately I've been more attracted to finding people who like that's their one skill set they train. We've talked about before, SQL wise, development wise, performance wise, Brent O, and then as far as SSIS, Andy Leonard, and I would love to find out. I should Google this later. If there's a PowerShell guru like them, or some of the other things, right? So
Sure, there is. Yeah.
You mean like Don Jones or Jeffrey Hicks?
Yeah.
sure.
Like them.
Learn Windows PowerShell in a month of lunches. Don Jones and Jeffrey Hicks.
Right. So okay, I guess I should be more specific. I mean, I like to follow like as far as Brent O. He gives out trainings. You can even pay him, and he'll train your team. Right. Same thing for
Yeah.
Andy Leonard. Right. So I wonder if there's someone like that for PowerShell. It's something for me to Google later, I guess, or check and like.
I'm assuming there is, just based off of industry standards of there's always someone that's that person,
Right.
and it's like
So I'm going to drop a link into the chat here that's relevant for people who want to learn Microsoft stuff.
Do it.
And they want to
Microsoft.com.
find resources that they can trust.
Oh,
So-
the MVP. Yeah.
So there's Microsoft maintains a list of their MVPs, most valuable players. And those are folks that know their stuff. They've been vetted. They put hours and hours and hours into helping the Microsoft community in their particular niche. Maybe that's databases, maybe it's C# development, maybe it's whatever it happens to be, PowerShell or whatever. So you can go there and do category searches, all kinds of things to find MVPs. And on their pages, they usually have links to their blogs, or they'll have links to presentations that they gave, or they might even have links to upcoming presentations that you can still catch and
Yep.
watch them teach about the thing that they're an expert on. So it's a really cool site. And then that link is
I can't just search for PowerShell on there, can I? I go to PowerShell.
I don't know because my computer is freaking out.
Yeah, we can move on anyway. I don't want to be trying to.
There are
talk.
ways. If you go to leemarkham.com and search the word training, you'll find a link. Or you'll find a blog post called "How do you find good SQL Server training resources?" And so this would be relevant. And this MVP link is on there. So obviously that's not just for SQL Server, but for developer and all kinds of other professions. So if you're looking for PowerShell or T-SQL development specifically, or C# or whatever, you can find that on the MVP. If you're looking for SQL Server training resources, Udemy is or Pluralsight is listed on that blog post. Obviously, there's a ton of stuff on Pluralsight that's not SQL Server, so it's a wider resource. But it also just kind of tells you how to find, like, how do you vet resources? You can YouTube stuff, but then, like, how do you know you've got somebody who's worth watching? You don't want to spend 3 hours watching someone and then go try to do the stuff and realize it doesn't work. Like, somehow it worked for that person, but your environment is different or whatever.
I think we've all been there where you go through like a tutorial or you go through something and then you get to the end, you're like, how did yours work?
This could be a topic in itself. There's some things that I've tried to learn in the past, like Angular, and I'm searching for other things, but I'm picking on Angular because I'm not really a front end guy. I've gotten some stuff done, but it's not my natural habitat, and so like maybe it's a little harder for me. So like I'm learning Angular stuff. By the time I find a tutorial, even if it's great done by an expert who's talking about, all the dependencies that they're setting up are all rapid. They probably were 3 days later because it's something that's growing fast. I don't know if it's still that fast now, but yeah. So that's the topic itself, like finding training on your learning on your own. Like I think a lot of us lean on books and videos and stuff, but like sometimes you gotta figure out stuff on your own, and that can be very tricky if you don't have a teacher or mentor.
By the way, that should work. The blog thing. Don't know why it doesn't.
Oh, really? Okay. Well,
I put it in. I put your link in earlier, or I put your link back in, but
it worked when you did it earlier, O'Grady.
oh well.
That was topic. That's about today's topic. If anybody is curious, you can you can go check out. Nope. Stream Elements is probably just being Stream Elements, so you can just blame them because that's how it works. If anybody is curious about today's topic and kind of the cliff notes here, it is right here.
Check out that blog.
There you go.
Lee got it
Send your friends.
Yeah, so I mean that's all I've got. So we talked about automation saving you time, saving your employees, your coworkers. That's the word I was looking for. Saving your coworkers also time, providing consistency, makes things easier to troubleshoot. We talked about, in my specific case, people who are in SQL Server world, you've built this library of T-SQL scripts. Well, you don't have to give that up, and it's easier to get started with than you think. And if you want to get to the senior level, you probably got to learn how to automate.
Yes. And that's right now, actually, we're looking for QA engineers or QA developers.
Ooh, yes.
And one of the requirements, not like suggestions, but one of the requirements is to be able to start in that week, be able to start automating. And it's a very hard skill to find. Someone who's that comfortable to just jump in and start automating. But if you have it, you can go really far.
I love that you bring that up because that reminds me of one of my current favorite things on automating, other than all the other things I say are my favorite things. I have a lot of favorites. Testing, automated testing.
Oh, yeah, I guess we didn't really go over that.
Yeah, anytime that you could take your, because we didn't talk about things necessarily you could automate. We're talking about why automation was good though.
Yeah.
But you mentioned QA, and now I'm triggered. I'm activated. When you automate testing, you can put it all over the place. You can have it happening at a cadence. You can have it keep going. Just today, I was talking with someone about on our database deployments, we have smoke tests. Whenever you create a new view, for example, views just bundled queries, not to get too into the weeds, but whenever you make them, you just move on, and then hopefully people use them. Maybe they don't. When they break, no one knows until they run them again.
Yes.
Right.
That's my issue with views, is that I love them because it saves me time, but when they don't work or whenever you
don't know.
Yeah, you don't know. It's like what happened, but.
And Dunce says smoke regression testing. That's 100% what I'm talking about, Dunce. Me and Dunce on the same page here. Like, so when we create a view, we add that view to our smoke test list. So every deployment, it'll get ran select top 0, right? And then it may not get back data, but if that view got broken at some point, let's say you broke it or somebody broke it yesterday and no one noticed because they haven't ran it yet, we'll know that deployment, and the deployment will stop, lock, and then we'll have to fix it in order to progress. So no more getting surprised. Automating testing is awesome. You want to know before anyone else knows, and the computer can check for you every hour, every 10 minutes, whatever.
I mean, we do.
Absolutely.
We do automated testing as far down as development level, where we do test-driven development. Yes. So the first thing I write is a test.
Unit tests, awesome. Yes.
And then after that, I write the code to make that test fail. or make sure that test fails, then I write the code to make sure it passes. And it's that's all. It creates an automated system so that when I'm writing my next part of code, I can look at all my 15 tests that I have and watch one go red because I just messed with something that affects that test, and then be like, oh,
Yeah.
let's back up. What's
You'll
going
know
on?
before you commit.
Yes.
I forget Anthony preaching about CI/CD and know as soon as you commit. You're like, forget that. I'll know before I commit, right?
Yep.
That's awesome.
And then you also have it in the pipelines themselves.
Yeah.
That, again, talking about the smoke tests and the regression tests and integration tests, all that's also built in, so we know more before it even hits production. Usually by the time it's in UAT or QA, whatever, everybody has different names for their
UAT,
environments, but
QAs.
it's
staging.
the environment
Staging.
before production. At that point, we can say, hey, all of our automation passed. The likelihood of this actually causing an issue in prod is very, very low at that point because we wrote it so that it'll fail very spectacularly in our faces of, hey, look at this big red freaking X. You don't put this in prod. I'm like, okay, thank you. Let me fix that. Okay, we're good. Get
It's
out there
the
now.
shift left mentality, right?
Yep.
I love it.
Which is funny because today I got something to UAT. I had the PO. We have I don't know if everybody has the same systems, but we have once it gets to QA or UAT, we have the PO look at it to verify that everything looks good. It's what they requested. It's what the business wants. They give us the green light. Then we go to prod. Then we do the same thing. They do regression testing again. But we do have to remind the PO that once it gets to that point and they're just verifying, they're doing the checks, making sure nothing's broken, making sure the things they ask for are there. If they have a change, it goes back to the beginning of the process.
Yeah.
That's something that we have to work with the business on understanding. But because of this automation and stuff, we wanted to go through the full process again. Even if the change was actually a text. So it was a text change and a font size. Very basic, probably wouldn't affect anything. But you go back through, it goes back into dev, gets tested, goes into UAT, gets regression tested by me, gets regression tested by the PO, and then it goes to prod.
Yeah.
Those processes can't 100% be automated without, we have to throw some human insight into that or else it gets dangerous. So,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
that's a good talk. I think, we can definitely touch on this again later about, what's our favorite automations and what's some different ways we can go into detail on, what's a good way to automate X and just kind of go through examples. But I think this was a really good starting point.
Yeah. Maybe some things that we automated that we haven't already talked about though. Oh, we could find some things, I'm sure.
That's the homework for chat. I want to hear some things in Discord of things that are automated in your life that you didn't realize are automated or that really save you a lot of time. Or just, you feel really good about having automated.
Yep.
So make sure you join the Discord and you can drop some of those in there. But yeah, unfortunately, I do have a hard cut tonight, so I got extended, but we are now at the extended point. I do have someone to raid if you guys want to do your the outros.
I can talk for a quick second. Yeah, I'd like to thank all the people who came. Got another big group in there. I really, really love the fact that we have all these other people coming. Stay active in the chat. I love it. Keep asking questions. And don't forget about Discord. Other than that, Ready Set Data. I'm Anthony, the engineer. Thanks for coming.
Grady. I'm the software engineer. I forgot what my title was for a second. Sorry. It happens.
And Lee I'm the database administrator.
Cool. Yeah, we're gonna go check out. We've rated them before, but they're really good. Little podcast. Similar to kind of what we do. They're the Average Guy TV, talking about home gadget geeks. This is I believe they also stream on YouTube at the same time. So if you have questions for them or whatever, make sure you they'll get to it because they have to go between both of the systems. But we make sure you drop them a follow because they're really supportive as well. And then drop us that follow if you haven't already. We're just a couple of people away from hopefully getting an affiliate here soon. So it'd be nice to be able to put that on the old badge. I don't know what's it called.
Yes, that would be good.
Yeah. All right. Well, then we're gonna go raid them, and everybody have an awesome rest of your week/weekend, and we'll see you guys in the Discord.
Yeah, keep it crispy. Night, everybody.
See y'all.
Right.